Welcome to the next episode of the Austin Bar Association's Council of Firsts. I'm your host, Amanda Arriaga, First Latina Bar President. This podcast is made possible by the Texas Bar Foundation. Today's guest is Amber Russell. Amber is a graduate of the University of Texas and the University of Texas School of Law. She's the founder of the Law Office of Amber Russell, SOAR, an all-female law firm where she focuses on personal injury. And more impressively, she created the nonprofit SOAR, Scholarship Opportunities and Relationships Texas, committed to giving $100,000 in scholarships annually to women who are firsts in their family to pursue higher education. She's a past president of MAMAS, the Mother Attorney Mentor Association of Austin, and has received the Advancement of Women's Interests Awards from the Travis County Women's Lawyers Association. I'm happy to have with us today, Amber Russell. Thanks so much for being here.
Thank you for having me, Amanda. I'm excited.
Me too. So I want to start at the beginning. Why did you want to be a lawyer?
So I'm one of those that knew really early on what I wanted to do with my life. And I actually credit it to a woman who had a huge influence on me. I'm the first lawyer in my family, but freshman year in high school, we got to choose electives for the first time. And you could do like a CSI Miami type class with forensics, or Miss Held, who was like the most feared, maybe even disliked teacher at my high school because she was so hard on her students. She had a law class. And so thank God I opted in. I thought, you know what? I'm going to see what this is about. There's not that many people in it because people were afraid. So I'm going to go in and kind of see what this is about and try it out. And that class really changed my life. I always knew I wanted to do something where I could impact people. I love telling their stories. I was very involved in theater. So I loved that art of telling a story and helping people feel someone else's emotions. And so through this class, we studied basically the big name Supreme Court cases. And I looked at it and realized that becoming a lawyer meant as a single person, one person, I could still have a dramatic impact in other people's lives. And so from that point forward, I changed my whole trajectory, graduated early at 16 because I knew I had a lot of school left to go. And then I picked UT undergrad because I wanted to go to UT Law. And was very thankful that when I graduated with experience in personal injury law. I knew I wanted to go be a litigator. And that's the very short version of what brought me here. And I'm very thankful that I've had the opportunity to actually live that out and work with people and tell their stories and hopefully really impact their lives for the better.
You must have been the Doogie Howser of your law school class. Because I went in right after college and was one of the youngest ones and felt so unprepared. And so if you were there 2 years before, you must have been everybody's kid sister.
I felt very young. I remember going to my first law school mixer, not yet, being 21. And so it was a little awkward having to get the X's on your hands to go in, but it worked out well. And I really bonded mostly with people who were second career students. And we had it was a very legally blonde study group. We had one gentleman whose wife would make homemade bread, and she grew these amazing heirloom tomatoes, and she'd send in like a basket of sandwiches for our study group. And we were pretty serious, and definitely no one would have accused me of being the party girl in law school because we were not at all. But it was really fun. And I think maybe that helped in the way that they kind of took me in as their kid sister because I was so much younger.
Yeah, I love that. Whenever you can start off as the kid sister, it's nice. It's unassuming.
Yes.
There's not automatic competition with you.
Yeah.
Because instead they want to help and figure out how to make your experience as helpful as possible.
Yeah. It was wonderful. And I'm still in touch with many of them. It was a great group of people who've all gone on to different careers. And, law school, I think it gets a bad rap because of all the movies that make it look like we're all out gunning for each other. Mm-hmm. And I found that everybody was really trying to do their best, and for the most part was willing to help out a fellow student or a friend.
So there's almost like then a nature versus nurture thing that happened. You went into this very wholesome, helpful, nurturing environment, and now you created one in your law firm.
Thank you.
You did. I mean, you have an all-female law firm on purpose. Tell me why you wanted to do that and why that's important.
For me, when I decided to go out on my own, one of the driving forces is I wanted to do things my way, right? I wanted to do things in a way that created the most collaborative, cooperative environment. I had found that time and time again throughout my career, the very best outcomes and the very best results came when everyone felt free to have a voice and felt important and included in the outcome. And so when you got real siloed and people felt like they were competing against another team, even within a same law firm, information wasn't being shared. People weren't stepping up when somebody, there's times where your workload is twice as much as the person next to you and vice versa. And if you can just help each other out, it kind of evens it out. So I kept seeing over and over that siloed approach led to poor results and unhappy people. And the times when we had those trusting groups, whether it was my study groups in law school or when I started at my first firm and I had some really key people, Ken Wooten, who I know you know as well, amazing, amazing person, was thankful to be on a team with her at Baker Botts very early on that had that collaborative, cooperative approach. And we got our deadlines done. We got them checked right. Everything just flowed. So when I went out on my own, I said, okay, I'm going to create this environment. I'm going to foster this environment. And what came naturally from that was we ended up getting so many of the top talented female lawyers, paralegals, administrative team members, because they wanted to be in a place where they felt like they were contributing and being helped and that they were contributing to the end goal. I feel like a lot of times there's this like, okay, that last, what I think of as like the most fun, glorious moment is when you're in mediation and you're getting that huge settlement for your client, when you're at trial and you're awaiting the jury verdict. And in so many places that seat is still reserved just for the top lawyers. But we try to bring everybody in because, gosh, if you've worked 2.5 years, maybe I think the longest we've had one is like 7 years. If you've worked that long and poured your life into helping someone, you should be there to celebrate that win at the end. And so just by naturally doing that and talking to people about what we believed in, we ended up getting these amazing female candidates. And we've just found that while I know that on both sides of the gender bar, there are people who are collaborative and cooperative and women who aren't, and men who are and men who aren't, but we have just found this amazing selection of women lawyers. On top of that, it has really allowed us to be there for a group of clientele who are looking for someone that they feel like, okay, I need someone I can be very open with. And I've represented people who have been in sexual assault cases and all these very private and difficult to discuss things. So knowing that they were going to be surrounded by all women as well was really a helpful aspect. And it's just a lot of fun, to be honest, too.
Well, and so you've done this great thing. You were nurtured, so you have a nurtured environment. But I know that sometimes there's a backlash, even when you're trying to do something good. So could you give us an example, if it has happened, of maybe when folks weren't excited that you had an all-female firm?
Well, I think that the greatest source of examples of when people are negative is online, right? That is, for whatever reason, people get behind a screen and think that they can express themselves maybe with a little less tact than they would in real life. And so for us, I know when we first came online and we had our first group pictures out there, we got a couple like great comments, go get them, girls. And this is so exciting to see an all-female firm. But very quickly, other people would jump on and they were very negative and, oh, you guys are terrible. You only hire women. And like, well, actually, I interview everyone. It just happens that that's who we attract and we get all these great resumes. We did get a lot of backlash on it at first. And so I think for me, it was a huge growing thing. It really, it's easy when everybody's cheering you on and happy for you to smile and work hard and keep going. And so to hear those things and then still say, this is who we are and we're proud of who we are and we're going to keep doing it no matter what you say, I think it was a good growing lesson. So.
Well, and honestly, this is not an experience that only you face. Taylor Swift is a billionaire because of
I think she's done okay.
I think she's doing fine. So if anybody is in a situation where you need to be pumped up and you feel bad because people are taking you down, I will make you a playlist.
Well, and I will say I just watched the Netflix documentary. I think it's Netflix, maybe it's Amazon, on Beckham. And I'm not a huge soccer person, but I was interested in the whole story. Having not grown up watching his story, I was shocked at how much people loved him and hated him and then loved him and then hated him. And his wife as well. When you go back and you see in a short story version, everything he went through for his incredible life, I was like, oh, okay. Someone said recently, if you're going to do anything big, you're going to be criticized. So you can either choose to stay home and do nothing, and no one will ever criticize you, or you can step up and take the criticism and just keep doing what you know is right. I've misquoted it a little bit, but that's how I internalize it. Is it's okay if you're willing to take that risk, you're going to have some shots taken at you, but the outcome is worth it.
Well, and not only do you have this great all-female firm, you now also host events for female lawyers, just for collegiality. It's not because you're the president of an organization. You're not asking for dues. You're not asking to donate to your gala. You just like bringing women attorneys together for networking. Why is that important to give back?
So one, I'll say it fills my cup being in a room with a bunch of very smart, motivated, kind, energetic women. I love it. We have had the best time at these events. And I think it allows everyone to come in because there is no umbrella of this is us. We are only this particular affinity group or this one. It's women lawyers across the state of Texas. It doesn't matter what practice you're in. It doesn't matter what stage of life you're in. So the last one we hosted in Austin, such a great time. We rented out the whole Westlake Wine Bar. We had 185 people RSVP. And we had everyone from the youngest, who was actually a high school student that wants to go to law school and asked if she could come meet some lawyers to get that real world experience, to women who've been judges, to appellate judges, partners, owners of their own firm. But again, nobody was there to promote a certain cause or to check a box or to, fulfill a membership requirement. It was just, we've got a Thursday night, 2 hours at a wine bar. Come hang out, have a good time, meet like-minded people. And what I loved at the event was you would see people making connections. I actually introduced 2 women at the same firm who had never met.
Oh,
that was awesome. And so, it is so easy for us to get trapped in we have so much going on. I mean, even today, I was joking before we came on the record about having to come with curlers in my hair because we have so much going on that it can be hard to create space for those connections. And so we want to provide a way to do that intentionally. We want to provide an intentional space for people to just make connections and get to know each other. And I can say for me, it's what's kept me sane as a lawyer is finding these groups of like-minded women that have some of the same struggles. I mean, it's not that someone has to fix your problem, but hearing that someone else is going through the same thing, it's like, okay, we're both going to make it through this.
Well, it's interesting because I went to your last event and I was sort of waiting, at some point there's going to be like, clink, 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 here's the speech. That never happened. And there was a photographer, but it was not for anyone to use in an ad, in a campaign. It was just because you're nice. And then everybody looked pretty and they have these cool pictures of themselves with their friends or their new friends.
Yes, exactly. And it's like, you get to walk away and, we have our phones out so much that it can distract. And so we thought, okay, we'll have a photographer who can take pictures. People don't have to take selfies. We'll have someone there doing that. There's no backdrop or any logo on it. It's just, hey, there'll be someone to take your picture. So you can put your purse down, you can put your phone away and just connect and have fun. And, I reconnected with a group of women I used to work with at Baker Botts. So we all got to take a picture together and probably haven't all been in the same room together in 10 years. So it was nice to have that memento and that memory of it. And like I said, it's just the authentic connection is, I think, what keeps me going.
Well, and you just keep putting good things in the world. So you have an all-female firm. You try to make all-female lawyers interact with each other and be happy. And then you also decided to give money to female firsts in their family that are going to do some sort of higher education. So why did you start that? Some people have successful law practices and they have money and then they spend their money. And you made a new nonprofit, SOAR, so you can give it away.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I will say, I think one of the things that immediately interested me in getting to know you more was when I found out about your interest in people with firsts, right? Because I have that same interest. I said I'm the first in my family to be a lawyer, but I wasn't the first in my family to go to school and to go pursue higher education. We've got a lot of teachers in our family, people with master's degrees, and my grandmother was a CPA. And so one of the things I took for granted for many, many years, but I'm so thankful for now, is I had this network of people that when I'm studying for finals for the first time, my grandmother told me, okay, this many hours course load means this many hours of studying a week. I had people who would weigh in on, office hours are like a real thing. You can go. But there's all these bits of advice I collected along the way without knowing that I was getting this valuable treasure. It clicked when the oldest of our four went off to college. She came home, she's going to a top 25 university. She came home and she was like, I'm so surprised because I just assumed everybody there would have the same advantages I had. I've got parents that can pour into me on a professional aspect. I've got people I can talk to about classes and all those things I had been getting along the way, unaware of how unique and special that was. She's like, I looked around in my class and there's people who had access to none of it, none of the special classes I took in high school, the advanced college courses. And she's at this top premier university. And I stopped for a minute and I went, wow, this is a big impact. So all that to say is it got us thinking about how can we help. Education has obviously been super important to me. It's allowed me to live out this dream of being a lawyer and help people. So we thought, okay, let's figure out a way. I want to give back to education. I obviously have a very special place in my heart for helping other women. And then it was like, okay, how do we help people who don't already have that built-in network? And so that's why we were saying, let's look for opportunities to provide scholarship funds to women who are the first in their family to go to school, or maybe not the only ones to go, but had some really interesting thing they've overcome because that has led them to become a leader. And so we're focusing on women that are going to change the world, and we're going to have just this little tiny impact in their story, but we're hoping that that impact is going to allow them to then go out and kind of like the stone in the pond, right? It's one little drop, but it just keeps rippling. And I can say already, we're getting ready to launch our third class of SOAR scholars. The applications went online today. Already, just in the few years we've been doing this, we see the stories starting. And so the last component, as we started to put this scholarship fund together, because we said this money will do more good in helping all of these women than doing something trivial with it. Let's put it to good use. But there's a lot of scholarship funds out there. What do we need to do to address that other part that we've identified of how do you add on? And mentoring is such a heavy word. It feels like it's a big, I think sometimes people are like, oh, I couldn't be a mentor. That's going to take a lot of time. We talk about relationships instead because we wanted to provide access so that women who didn't have someone who had been a lawyer, a doctor, a construction engineer, who'd gone to A&M, who didn't have access to someone in their own network could say, what do I need to do to be successful? And so that's where the idea of SOAR was born. Let's pair funding with this support and foundation that's going to allow people to be successful. And let's find the people that are going to be leaders and are then going to continue on helping other people. And it's been so much fun.
Is there a way the audience can help support SOAR either by talking about the applications,
Yes.
donating, or maybe signing up to be relationship builders?
Yeah. Oh, I love that. Okay. We've been looking for a word and I think you just nailed it. Relationship builders. Yes, absolutely. So just this morning, we dropped the press release and we opened the application. So on our website, loretexas.com, there is I'll give you all the information to put in the comments for later, but there's a link that will take you to the scholarship application. So the scholarship applications are live. We've intentionally kept them short. It's not something that's going to take you a month to fill out, but there's 3 short question answers that you can tell us about your story and how you would fit in as a SOAR scholar to make that kind of a change and an impact long term. So spreading the word about that is huge because, again, we're trying to seek out people who don't already have access to, oh, well, of course I've got a career counselor and a coach who's writing my resume and all these things so they know about all the scholarship opportunities. We really want to spread the word so we can reach out to more and more people. And we were very excited. So today when we launched the SOAR press release for this year, we've taken it from the original 6 universities and now said it's for all Texas universities. So we had amazing candidates over the years that have called in and said, hey, I'm not going to one of your 6 universities. Can I apply? And I'm going to talk business and nonprofit for a second, because one of the biggest lessons I've learned over the last several years is the pivot. That you can change things, when you're working through it, you don't have to stick with the original model. So we did 6 originally because we thought, let's get all the women in the same universities. And so if we limit the number of universities, we'll get groups of women. And what we found is in this like post-COVID world, people are fine connecting virtually.
Mhm.
So actually, while we have some groups within the same university, we actually have SOAR scholars connecting across universities. And so we said, okay, well, then there's no reason to limit it to just 6. Let's go and say any woman who falls into the SOAR eligibility criteria that's going to a Texas university in, like, send your application. Let's broaden our reach. Let's find everyone we can find to help. And so was really excited about that change this year.
That's great. So we'll put in the notes how folks can spread that word. And do you need people to help be the relationship builders beyond just your SOAR scholars, but
Yes.
grown-ups, for lack of a better word?
Yes,
You need grown-ups.
absolutely.
You need grown-ups to help.
Yes, because another misconception, a lot of people think because I'm a lawyer, SOAR is only targeting people in the legal field. No, we have a very broad base of SOAR scholars. So the list I was mentioning earlier, we have people who are interested in going into law. We have people interested in STEM, government. We have a construction engineer major who is going to go on to build tiny home communities to try to help end people who are not housed currently. So we have all these different things. And I certainly don't have a connection for every single person where I can say, this is who you need to go talk to. So the more relationship builders that can come on, and there's actually going to be a link. There is a link as well. We'll put that in there for people who want to be relationship builders to sign up and just say, here's my story. Here, if I ever connect with someone, feel free to introduce us. That takes the burden off of the student who might feel, if I find this person on LinkedIn, am I going to be annoying? Am I going to be bothering them? It's giving them permission to say, no, I'm here and I want to help. I've had people reach out who have had not just professional things to add, but who have said, I have had this specific challenge that I've overcome in my life. So if you ever get a SOAR scholar that's had this thing, put them in touch with me. And so that's incredible because, again, like I said earlier, you don't always have to have the solution to someone's problem. Just knowing that you guys went through the same thing and to see someone that's overcoming and that's gone on to do something amazing, that can be so fulfilling and inspirational. And so as many people that want to participate in the program, please reach out. We love having more relationship builders, and we just keep an inventory. Now, some of those are things that people are like, hey, this is personal, so I'm not going to put that out there, but I know who it is and I can say, okay, I'm now going to connect these people. But generally we say, okay, this person's in the law, this person's in engineering. And then once a year we have our big summer celebration. And so that's the big law firm party we do in June. We switch back and forth between our Dallas and Austin office. This year's in Austin. We rent out the top of the Oasis. It's a really great night. But I didn't feel like just having a law firm party was all that fulfilling. Like, it's fun. But we wanted to have another component of it. So we also invite the SOAR scholars because it's shortly after they get announced. So they get to come. And that's another opportunity where if we have these relationship builders in place, they come to the event. And last year we hosted it at the Cowboys headquarters in Frisco. So much fun. But we had a lot of those people who said they wanted to reach out and mentor and help. And we were able to connect them face to face with the SOAR scholars. And it was just a blast and gave them another foot forward as they're trying to figure out what they want to do next with their life.
Well, let me know how I can help. When we're
Thank
done, I'm
you.
going to sign up to be one of your relationship builders. And I know that part of your firm goes to Edinburgh, goes to the Valley. So if you
Yes.
ever do an event in the Valley,
Yes.
since all my family is there,
I would love that.
I will go. I will introduce people.
I would love that.
I will help build your South Texas network because
Thank you.
I think that's important too.
Yes, we had several UT RGV SOAR scholars last year, and I was super excited about it. And again, that's the brilliance of being able to connect virtually. We're also very mindful that a lot of our SOAR scholars work in addition to take a full course load. And so we don't have a mandatory, you've got to be 12 hours. You have to do this, you have to do that. We are just all about making ourselves available. So hosting an event, if you can come, we want you to be there. If you can't, there's never a penalty. At the beginning of the year, we host like a virtual meeting for everybody to get to know each other, make those cross connections. And then we video it on Zoom and send it out so that, again, we don't want to add to somebody's workload. We're here to try to be available and help people. And so we're doing that in the way that we feel like can most fit into people's lives. It's hard to be a student and to be a first student. I just finished reading Becoming, Michelle Obama. Totally eye-opening. Again, just reading through someone else's story to be able to figure out how we can most effectively use SOAR to help people.
That's wonderful. So you've been so intentional in doing these things for females. So you're not calling yourself this. It seems to me like you have a bit of expertise in DEI.
Oh,
And
thank you.
so because you're an expert, my word, not your word, I want to know what you think about how the Austin legal community is doing in terms of being diverse. Are we getting better?
Oh,
Do we
great
still have a
question.
ways to go?
So I've been in the Austin legal community now for almost 20 years. This is where I've practiced my whole career. Very grateful I get to practice in a lot of other cities, but this has always been home base. And it's an interesting question because I wonder how much of my answer is filtered through my lens, my perspective of who I'm with. Because what I would tell you is, I feel like we're making great strides. And in part, I think that's because I've had the privilege of getting to know some really amazing, diverse people who we started out together post, graduating law school, young associates at different firms. And then we've kept up and maintained those friendships as they've gone on to do really amazing things. And so I'm wondering, is it my limited pool of where I'm looking at these amazing people? In fact, you had Judge DeSetta Lytle on your program recently. I mentioned already Kenan Wooten. I mean, there are so many of these awesome people in my circle that I'm seeing go on to do really cool things and to take these leadership positions that it gives me a lot of hope and optimism. But I have to be careful that I look at the whole of Austin before I say, yes, we are 100% on track and we're doing better than expected. But I certainly have a lot of hope and inspiration from those stories.
Well, and you are adding to that hope and inspiration with
Thank
all that
you.
you're doing. So thank you for doing your part to improve
Thank you.
the diversity of the Austin legal community.
Thank you, Amanda. It's been awesome. And I have to say, I was, again, the first time we met and you told me about this podcast, I was so impressed and excited because I really do believe that just by living our authentic life, doing what we're passionate about, other people can see it and can go, oh, I didn't know I could do that. I mean, here you are and you're like, I get to do this awesome podcast and I get to pick and I'm going to focus it on counsel at first. I'm going to inspire people. And so I've been listening to your podcast as well and just hearing people's stories. And I'll go back to Judge DeSetta Lytle again, when you were talking to her about Army to Judge.
Mm-hmm.
I hadn't thought about that, about how unique that is and how just someone listening to that's like, oh, well, I've always been in the Army, I'm never, but all of a sudden now I see someone who took the path I had and is a judge. Like, that's so cool. So I love that you're telling people stories. And I think that's such an important part of just continuing to improve on the culture in Austin.
And I still say if the Army does not reach out to her to do a commercial and be the spokesperson.
Or like
I'm
a documentary.
Right. We're calling Netflix.
Yeah. Yes. Or Amazon Prime.
Or Amazon Prime.
One
or
of the two.
Hulu, any of the streamers. Now that the strike is over.
Yes. Amen.
We have a pitch for you.
I love it.
So I might know this answer, but what organizations have meant the most to you professionally or personally?
Yeah. You probably know the answer. Mamas was one of the first organizations that I reached out to where I found very deep relationships. And I say that as a young associate at Baker Botts, I was working in environmental litigation. And so working crazy hours, I think I billed 2,300 hours my first 3 years in a row. It was rough, including the first pregnancy, I was billing 2,300. It was bad. So I was working a lot. And again, like I said, you get to that point where you're not making a lot of connections. And any free time I had, I was supposed to be networking. And so in living in Austin, representing large energy companies, there wasn't a lot of networking to be had. So I'd go to Houston and do events and then come back exhausted. And someone invited me to a mama's event. And I was like, I don't know. I can't do any more networking. I just can't. But she's like, oh, no, it's a splash pad play date. And so now I'd had my first, I had a little kiddo running around and I was like, wait, so I can go and say it's a work thing, but I'm taking my kid to a splash pad? Like, yeah, okay, let's do it. And so showed up to that. At that time, Mama's was maybe 30 of us. I was still very, very small at the beginning. And I realized that, oh, this is a great outlet for, again, connecting with women who are doing similar things or experiencing similar things, and both at work and at home with kids and managing and juggling. and I had such a good time with it. And I could never network in it, which was a blessing because I only went to it for friendship and camaraderie. And so as I built my friendships in there, Eleanor Ruffner, Lauren Schoenbaum, you know them. There's
Mhm.
Kate Lincoln Goldfinch. I met all these really cool women that I would never have crossed path with professionally. We lived in different parts of Austin, but we had so many things in common and made these strong bonds. And now, goodness, I think we're almost at 2,000 women in that group. It has been a game changer because again, it took me out of that mindset of it's all about work and you've got to network and you've got to do this to, oh no, I get so much value just from meeting them and being inspired and having women to lean on when I decided to start my own firm and say, okay, you've done this, you've walked that path. What was the hardest? What was the most fun? What should I be looking out for? What should I look forward to? So Mamas has been a really special group to me and was part of what inspired me to do the Texas Women in Law series because I gained so much from that group. And then I found myself meeting women who had either decided not to have kids or were young and hadn't started families yet, everything in between, weren't eligible to be part of that group. And I was like, man, you guys are missing out. I want to get you involved. And so we just decided to open up the tent.
Well, and it's funny because the way you say networking, I can hear the air quotes in it because
Yeah.
that's how everybody hears it. It's like, you need to go networking.
Yes.
Nobody wants to do that.
Mm-mm.
And so whenever you find an organization where networking feels fun
Yes.
or inclusive or just people that you like being with, it's
Yeah.
so much better.
It's so much better. It should never network. That would be,
Never
and I would get in
network.
trouble for saying it, but I would go to every law firm and I would tell young associates, never network because it's not effective. It's not going to be a good use of your time. People can tell what's authentic and what's not.
Mhm.
So even if you're going to a charity that you don't believe in, but you're like, well, I got to go to a charity thing to look like I'm doing it. I'm checking the box. Don't do that. Go look for the charity you believe in. Go look for the organization that makes you come alive, that makes you have those connections that you look forward to going to. My kids are both in YMSL and NCL, so two mom kid led charities. And I love it because the charity list is like, this long list that you get to go through. And even with my kids at a young age, it matters if you pick one they're interested in.
Yeah.
That 4 hours can be really long or it can be super fun. And so for my daughter, we've got to go to the Humane Society. Like if we're going to volunteer, we've got to go to the Humane Society. She's all about the animals. That's her thing. For my son, we do Special Olympics and he loves being part of that and helping the participants and cheering people on. But we've done non-matching ones and it's not fun. So same thing, never network. Go out, be authentic, get engaged, get to know people and make real connections. Who cares if it results in a business thing? You will be so much better off. And I'll tell you 9 times out of 10, you're going to make more business connections that way anyway, because you're going to connect with people on a real level. Okay, I get excited. Sorry.
No, I love that. What's next for you?
I think right now, so like I said, SOAR applications for next year just launched. On a big scale, I really want to expand the women in law. So women in law, WIL, I say where there's a will, there's a way, because I really believe that the more women across the state of Texas that we can bring together and connect and really work together, there's not a specific goal or a political campaign. There's none of that. But I believe that putting people in these same rooms together in a positive way will continue to spread positivity and empowerment and will help women along in their journey and just inspire them to keep going and take that next right step and do that next right thing for them. And so we started with just Austin and Dallas, where our 2 main offices are. We have Waco and Edinburgh, so we've got to add those next. And we've added Houston now. So I'll be basically touring Texas for women in law. It's going to be awesome.
Well, that is awesome. You're delightful. I wish you all the best. I'm so excited about all the things, all the nice things you put in the universe just because you're a nice person.
Thank you.
Not everybody has that, Amber. Like, I don't know if you know
Thank
that.
you.
Not everyone is as determined just to put good in.
Thank
So
you.
thank you for being here. And the audience is going to love you and you're going to get a ton of relationship builders from this.
Thank you. We finally have a term for it. So success.
Yes.
Thank you, Amanda.
Sure. Thanks all of you. We'll see you next time.